Hey everybody, welcome to our live stream from my living room. We've got a few different people that are coming over with us to do a little watch party, and I'm so pumped that you guys are on. So I think everything's working out well. Yep, boom, boom, boom. I'm going to show you and give you a little pano. So this is Dustin and my friend Whitney, and of course Mom. That's Opal. She's going to be the new mascot. She's loving life. Got Robert and Jen, and got my wife. I literally handed Robert just a second ago with a microphone.
Hello,
And I
everyone.
looked around and I said, where's my wife? And I literally thought that Rachel just wasn't sitting where I thought she was going to sit. And I totally missed her when I was literally handed Robert this thing. I was like, where's Rachel? Because I thought she was supposed to be sitting next to my mom. But anyway, I hope you guys are doing well. And again, thanks so much for tuning in with us. I want to remind us of what we just finished talking about, right? Oh, well, this is our vision, right? We exist as a family of faith that follows Jesus and helps others find him by living all of life as missionaries of hope. Boom. There you go. Totally did not mean to do that. I'm going to hit this little thing here. There you go. So this is our main point for today. And what we just watched was our actions change when we become our truest self by responding to Jesus with faith and proximity. And so we just finished talking about this idea of faith, believing, hearing, believing, obeying in the person and the work of Jesus. And then we are talking about proximity, like being close with Jesus is what helps us grow and thrive and continue to believe the gospel in every area of our lives. So I want to kind of begin with a question that I want to circle back to later. And by the way, guys, anytime you want to speak, just let Robert know. He'll hand you the mic and flick the mic on, and that way you can be on the live stream too, and you guys can hear what I'm hearing here. I want us to ask a question. What does it look like to be a friend of Jesus? Right? Like Jesus was literally walking past Zacchaeus and he said, I want to be your friend. I want to come over to your house. And under the power of a friendship with Jesus, combined with Zacchaeus' true faith, we see that Zacchaeus has changed. His identity has changed to become who he was originally created to be. And so I want to ask us a question. What does it look like to be a friend of Jesus? So just kind of be thinking about that, mull that over. Larry said good morning. Good morning, Larry. Glad that you're on. So a couple of fun things that we had. Don said, for big guys, there's no such thing as a seesaw, only catapults, which I thought was hilarious. So we were talking about sitting in the beach chair. So for big guys, there's no such thing as a seesaw, only catapults. I love that. We also had a big back and forth with Jonathan, who also has red hair, about my name on our little church online thing. My name is Redbeard 9000, and Jonathan said he wanted to make a Redbeard 10,000. I told him, I said, I've got the admin rights, and then he was believing that I was going to kick him out. Robert said, Barba Roja de los Perros Calientes, Redbeard of the hot dogs. That's what he thinks my new nickname should be. And then I asked, what church can you talk to the pastor in the middle of his sermon about Redbeard hot dogs? And then I said, #winning. So that's why everybody's a part of our church, because they can now talk to me in the middle of our church. And then Katie, really funny, Katie said, all I hear when you say Zacchaeus is the song we sang in children's church, and no joke, I've been working on the sermon all week, Katie, and I keep on singing that song in my head. Zacchaeus was leaving the land, wee little man was he. So that's like an inside joke for all of those who are traumatized by going to Sunday school for like 20 years straight. So those are some funny things. Absolutely love it. So a couple of things that we were kind of chatting about. Max, a bunch of numbers on Twitch said hi. Hi, buddy. Thanks for tuning in. So Katie said, seek and you will find, knock and it will be open for you. She said she loved HBO and that I need to make a shirt that says, hear, believe, obey, which actually I would love for you to get on, and I would totally wear that. So I think that would be a really awesome shirt for us. So would love to do that. And then Kim said, love it, flopping down in faith, just that idea of resting in Jesus. Thought that was really cool. And then Robert said, I can be jealous of God's good favor on others. I think I deserve the blessing of others. Robert, do you kind of want to expand on that? You want to flick that on?
Yeah, I think like a lot. There's these times when life just doesn't go my way, and I start to compare myself to others. I spend too much time on social media and just kind of seeing what everyone else is doing, and of course, a lot of that's not true anyway. Because people are, I try to present my best self on social media as well. but just to look at, oh wow, everyone else is doing so great, and life really sucks right now sometimes.
Appreciate that. It's sometimes hard, right? Like when we're comparing our inside to everybody else's outside. Like, and I find that's the damage for social media to me, you know. But what I think is really interesting about Zacchaeus is that Zacchaeus actually knew who he was. Like Zacchaeus totally knew that he was not righteous, not pure, not innocent. He wasn't living up to his name. And I think that's what drew him to Jesus. Like it drew him to Jesus, the fact that he knew who he truly was, which I thought was really kind of interesting. Jonathan said, obeying is definitely the most difficult part. It's easy to want to do what I want to do and ignore what God is telling me. And actually, Robert responded, Jonathan, you're so right. Obedience actually shows what we truly believe. So obedience isn't necessarily the problem. It's more about what we truly believe. And I would agree with that. Like, you know, our actions demonstrate our true beliefs. So the real root of our lack of obedience isn't obedience. It's actually the fact that we're not believing the gospel in certain areas. And there's certain areas in my life that's really easy to believe the gospel. There's other areas in my life that's really hard to believe the gospel. And so in those areas where it's easy to trust in God's provision and God's grace, maybe for you, with your finances, it's really easy to just give your finances away. But maybe with your job, it's really hard to trust job when you're doing your job. You know what I mean? So there's certain areas of your life where it's like my finances, man, I believe the gospel. I believe that Jesus is my provider and he's always provided for me in the past. He's going to keep providing for me. So then it's easy to be obedient in giving away your finances, right? But maybe with your job, maybe it's like you're having some difficulties with your job or your vocation, and it's like, man, like maybe that's an area where it's really hard to believe, and so it's hard to be obedient in the areas where it's hard to believe, right? So the continual work of the Christian, that's why we talked about proximity to Jesus. The continual work of the Christian is to believe the gospel in every facet of your life until the day you die. That's like what it means to be a Christian and follow Jesus. So, Jonathan said, true, unwillingness to obey demonstrates a lack of trust in the Father. I think that's right. And Robert even said, too, it's too easy to punch the clock in and out. Katie said, we are no longer dead, as in spiritually dead. We are alive because of our relationship with Jesus. And Katie, you're so right. Like, I love that you said that. And then I also think, too, it's important to note that it's like sometimes we want to climb in the grave. We want to climb back in the grave sometimes. You know, like Jesus resurrects our dead hearts and gives us new life again, right? That's that belief, right? That faith, hearing, believing, obeying. The faith, the moment where Zacchaeus becomes a Christian is when he says, Jesus, you're my Lord. And so that's him getting resurrected out of spiritual deadness into spiritual life again. But I don't know about you guys, but for me, I often try to find myself trying to claw back into the grave again in certain areas of my life, to live as if God didn't exist, to live as if God didn't exist in certain areas, in certain ways in my life. And so for me, that's what the work of following Jesus is over a lifetime, is getting continual proximity to Jesus so that I can see, oh, this is an area where I'm not trusting God. I'm living like I'm spiritually dead in this area. And God's calling me to live out of his true life in maybe work or finances or relationships or any of those other things. So I appreciate that, Katie. Please do. Yeah, make sure you turn it on.
Hello, hey everyone. I think something I think of like in terms of either people that don't believe and even people that are already Christians is like this transformation seems so radical and so quick, and we want that for ourselves, but sometimes it just doesn't seem like that comes. So like I was maybe hoping you could kind of talk about, give some words of encouragement. Like this isn't just showing that this is going to always be super easy and the transformation is going to be instantaneous, because it's not.
Yeah, you're exactly right, 100%. I'm really glad you asked that, Robert. Thank you. And I'm going to answer your question, but I'm going to turn to the camera. I know that's a little weird to turn my back when I'm answering your question, but I'm genuinely I love you and I want to answer your question, but I don't think anybody wants to see the back of my head. It's already hard enough to see the front of my face, okay? So I do that, Robert. That's a really good question, because the work of the Christian doesn't end with belief in Jesus. It begins. And there's certain seasons of our life where we will grow exponentially, and there's certain seasons of our life like like roots spreading out from a tree, like a lot of the change goes on under the surface, right? So like we don't really see that. When my father was dying of Lou Gehrig's disease, I really started to become in a really good rhythm of reading the scriptures. But all of that stress and anxiety as my dad was dying, I was getting lack of sleep. I was taking care of him. My mom was taking care of him. It was very stressful. And then when my father did pass away, like I felt this explosive growth in my walk with Jesus. Like I was hearing from him, I was journaling, but I had been faithfully reading. And it's like the tilling of the soil and letting the roots grow deep. And then eventually I actually saw the fruit of it, right? And so this goes into the importance of a rhythm and the importance of a consistent walk with Jesus. Like there's certain areas of your life where it's not designed, your relationship with God is not designed to go like this all the time, right? It's actually slow, steady faithfulness over a long period of time. And then if you were to zoom in week to week, you'll see ups and downs. But what I've found is the most mature Christians are the ones that have slow, steady obedience towards Jesus, regardless of what happens. And those are the men and women in my life that when they encounter difficulties and trials, they're steady state. That the difficulties don't send them crashing down like my life is ending. But then also when they're experiencing really positive times, they get that promotion, they get extra money, they buy a new house. It's not like this huge elation either, right? It's this continual growth in following Jesus where your life is less rooted in what happens around you and more rooted in what Jesus has done for you. Does that make sense? Does that make sense to you, Robert? Does that begin to answer your question a little bit? So I want to encourage you, like if you feel stagnant, keep pressing in. It's oftentimes when God is not speaking to you that you find out what you truly love. Because if you're in this because you want something from God, when he's not giving you what you want, you will be in despair and you will cast him aside. But if you are in this because you find Jesus valuable, because you love Jesus for Jesus, because Jesus has saved you and is saving you, if you believe that truly, then if Jesus doesn't give you what you want, you will still pursue him because you know that he ultimately has your good. Does that make sense? Does that resonate with you guys? Like that's what I want to remind you of. Like your growth in following Jesus is a lifetime. And my wife says this a lot. God is eternal, and he's got all of eternity to work this stuff out. He's not in a hurry. Like God is not in a hurry in your life. And so, we've got all of eternity to figure out who Jesus is. And we are on this process. And so God truly does love us, care for us. But he also wants us to grow, and sometimes we will grow rapidly, but most often we grow through the simple obedience. One other thing that is helpful for me as I think about growth is, I don't always remember what I eat, right? Like I could not tell you what I had for breakfast a week ago, but what I can tell you is I didn't go hungry. I would remember that, right? And so coming to the scriptures consistently, reading the scriptures consistently, being in community consistently, getting closer to Jesus in proximity and friendship, increasing in faith through proximity to Jesus. It's not always life-changing every day. But what it does is over time, it builds health. Just like eating healthy if you eat healthy one day, if I eat a salad one day out of the week, that doesn't do anything. But eating healthy over time will change the trajectory of my body and my mind, and it will change the trajectory of my health. And so that's what following Jesus is: slow, steady faithfulness over a long period of time. Katie said, we can't go alone. We need to consistently come to him and walk with him through life. And you're right. So my friends, what does it look like to be a friend of Jesus? What does it look like to follow Jesus in friendship? Do you guys have anything to share on that? Here, Robert, why don't you get that to her? Make sure to flip the little. There you go.
Are we on? We're good? Okay. I don't know. Okay. For me, a friendship with Jesus, which kind of goes to what Robert was talking about, is a hard lesson for me was learning the difference between a friend and an acquaintance. A friend is somebody who sharpens you, who does daily life with you, and something that I have to remind myself of is any tool that has been molded has to be resharpened to remain effective. And in the process of that, that means you have to be used for what you were created to be used for. And that wear and tear doesn't mean anything about your worth other than the fact that you are pouring yourself out and giving up those parts of you, those fresher pieces, that ripe fruit to be able to feed other people, that sharpened edge to be able to do whatever you were created to do. But we do have to come back to a place of restoration. And in the process of all of that, you have to have your security. You have to know that that is not meant to harm you, even though it may be painful. And to me, that also includes things like the accountability, the community, not knowing maybe where your meal may come from, but that you're not going to go hungry. And if you do have to be uncomfortable for a little bit, that's okay. So that to me is part of a friendship, is that it is work. It is effort, but it is very rewarding, and it's a give and take. And so you also have to recognize that he's trying to feed you. He's trying to sharpen you, and be receptive and willing for that. And the willingness is also a give and take. You have to give yourself to him, and he will always give back in abundance. So that's what friendship is to me.
So much for sharing. You just flick it off and you can hold on to it if you want to and just pass it off to somebody else. I appreciate that. And again, I'm going to respond to it, but I'm going to look there. Okay. It's really weird to me. But this idea of when we grow, man, I just love what you said, Whitney. Like, our Father consistently wants us to draw close to him. But Jesus is the perfect gentleman. He waits for us to come to him. He has already come to us. He's given us the means and the access to come to him, right? He's done all the work on the cross. But as you follow Jesus, if you hear, believe, and obey him, that proximity piece, he gives us the option. But really, I want to remind us of what grace is, and kind of what Whitney was saying. Grace is like a waterfall. It consistently pours into the life of the Christian. You can't do anything to stop it. You can't do anything to change it. But our experience of that grace can change based on our actions. So God never stops pouring his grace into our life. He never stops coming close to you. But we can pull away from God. And our experience of his grace can change. And so I want to just remind us of that. Like, this is why I want to emphasize discipleship and reading the scriptures and being in community and getting that sharpening, as Whitney was mentioning, so that we can truly be used effectively for God's kingdom. And that kind of leads us into a friendship with Jesus. What does it look like to become a friend of Jesus? And I want to say three things. Friendship with Jesus is receiving the gospel, responding to the gospel, and reproducing the gospel. And really, it's the gospel of grace, the good news of God's grace. So the first way that we have friendship and enter into friendship with Jesus is receiving the good news. It's Mark 1:15. It's Jesus saying, repent and believe the gospel. Now, you do that one time, like Zacchaeus did, saying, Lord, right, to become a Christian. But like we've been saying, in the life of the Christian, we continually are called to believe the gospel in different areas of our life until the day we die. And so that's what it means. We consistently spend time with Jesus. We receive the gospel of grace. That's being in the scriptures. That's prayer. That's being in community. That's giving. That's tithing. That's like giving back to God what he's given to you financially. That's giving back to God what he's given you in terms of time. That's serving, right? That's giving back to God what he's given to you in terms of your giftings and your relational connection. Like, that's what community is giving back to God your time and your personality you give to other people, right? So you're loving other people when you enter into community. All of these things are what it looks like to receive the gospel, right? To enter into community, be in the scriptures, to pray. All those things are receiving. But then the next thing, what does it look like, friendship with Jesus, is responding to Jesus in obedience, right? So if Jesus calls you to give, you give. If Jesus calls you to take a step of faith and be vulnerable in a group, you do that. If Jesus calls you to lay down the familiar and the comfortable and to go out in the unknown to find who he is in a deeper way, you do that, right? So you receive his grace from spending time with him, but then you respond to him in obedience, consistently, practical, measurable steps of obedience and faith. But then it doesn't just stop there, because it's not just personal with you. Friendship with Jesus involves reproducing the gospel of grace in others. Like, you cannot be a disciple without being a disciple maker. Like, to be a follower of Jesus means to help others follow Jesus. So if you're not helping others follow Jesus, you're not being a true follower of Jesus. Because that's what Jesus did. That was his whole life. He says, come follow me. Come follow me. And then we see the early church. They're consistently making disciples of Jesus. So you can't be obedient to the commandments of Jesus without also helping others follow him. So we receive it for ourselves. We're changed. We respond out in obedience, right? That's the obedience piece. That's the responding to God's grace in obedience. But then we reproduce that grace in others through simple actions to be on mission, to share the gospel with others, to live out our lives to our neighbors in such a way and invite them in to discuss those things in such a way that compels them to follow Jesus with you. So that's what I think friendship with Jesus looks like. Receiving his grace, responding to it in obedience, and reproducing it in others. And I want to remind us of this, and what Katie talked about is this idea of true faith, hearing, believing, and obeying. We don't just hear it and intellectually ascribe to it. We believe it in our hearts, and then that responds with true, real obedience. Faith plus proximity equals a change in your identity. So when you believe in Jesus, you're close to Jesus, that actually produces real life change in you. I wanted to just share this one other thing, and I'm going to actually throw it in the comments because I'm not going to be able to put it on the screen, but if you're watching this somewhere, anywhere, I'll throw it up there. Clement is an early church father, and he was writing, and he was actually talking about Zacchaeus, but he says this great quote that I want to read to us as we close out our time. And it says, "Therefore Christ, who trains the soul, reckons one rich, not by his gifts, but by his choice." Let me say that again. Therefore Christ, remember he's talking about Zacchaeus. Therefore Christ, who trains the soul, reckons one rich, not by his gifts, but by his choice. My friends, I want to remind you, God has chosen you. God loves you. He cares for you. He wants a relationship with you. He wants you to enter into true faith, hearing, believing, obeying. And then he wants you to come in close proximity to him through receiving his grace, responding to his grace in obedience, and then reproducing that grace in others. Your Father has chosen you. He wants a relationship with you. He wants you to thrive under the power of a renewed, beautiful, wonderful, intimate friendship with himself. Guys, thank you so much for watching. You can join us, ways to join us. I don't have it up here on the screen yet, but you can join us tomorrow night for a prayer call at 6 p.m. on Zoom. You'll find the link on social media. You can join us on Wednesday. Have another live Q&A, a little Bible study. And then, as always, we'd love to connect with you. If you would like to connect with us, you can go on our website. You can text us at 931-326-4512. We love you guys. We'll see you soon.